Hello, I am Jennifer Lynn Bursell, aka Opportunity Butterfly, bringing to you Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD. I don't know if you're a new listener or not, but I would like to share with you where I get most of my articles for this podcast. I've recently learned about a nonprofit that I would really like to help. It's the NVLD project. In addition to doing research on NVLD and working to get it back on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, that is the DSM, they provide support groups for those with NVLD. You can find the NVLD project at www.nvld.org. All proceeds from this podcast and the ads will go towards the NVLD project. I will include the link for this in the description of the podcast. Please go to livingwithnld.com to learn more about my podcast. Also, I would like to announce that I now have created a YouTube channel for this podcast. I will post the link for this in the description for you. Is there something you wish the world would know about NLD or ADHD?
Yeah, and I'm guilty of this too, but I wish people would recognize that NLD is actually not the same as ADHD. And although a child may have both disabilities at the same time, like Chloe does, they have similarities, but they are two separate disabilities, and they really have to be treated differently. Because if you have a child in a classroom that has ADHD and they get treated for their behavior, for a behavior issue at the school that they attend, that doesn't mean that same correction should be applied to another child that has NLD, especially if that particular child doesn't also have ADHD, or if the ADHD behavior isn't presenting at the time. So they really have to be treated differently. But and also, just because a person has the NLD diagnosis, or any diagnosis for that matter, it's not the end of the world. It's never over. It's just really the beginning of a discovery period that allows the child to be able to understand what they have and be able to apply it to the world that they live in, and to get help. I think it provides a learning opportunity, or an opportunity to learn about the disorder, and it helps open up a world of tools and education that the child can get to help them overcome their challenges, and to help them be an advocate for themselves when they get around other people. I always tell Chloe, she says she may not know how to explain to people who've never heard of it just what it is, because as soon as she says nonverbal, they're gonna think she can't talk. And I said, well, Chloe, focus on what it is instead of saying what you have. Focus on the symptoms and say, I have something that causes me to whatever. I told her to have her 30-second elevator speech, basically, memorized and always ready to be able to spit out, so that she can, better explain it. And I'm telling her that, and I also need to do that.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree with you that NLD is different from ADHD and the other things on the autism spectrum with Asperger's and autism.
Yes, Asperger, that's another one. Even
Yeah,
though they can kind of overlap and have similarities, they're just
right.
they're also their own disorder, or disability, I should say.
Right. They do have similarities, mainly with the social area, I would say. And because I have a little bit of background with autism, and I did help a child who had autism and ADHD. And so I know a little bit about both, and it, that, like you were saying, they are different. And if the world had a better understanding of how different they were, it would be you know, like you were saying, Pam, it would be easier for them to help people who have it. And I think they are getting a better understanding with the more research they do and the more knowledge that they gain on NLD through the research.
Yeah,
Right.
they're getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and
And
it
people like you and Chloe can help,
Yeah,
with
we
your
need to.
website and
Yeah.
podcast. You can definitely help with getting the word out. You
yeah.
are helping.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, you're right. Through the research and like you said, through the podcast as well, any anything that is out there to help them with NLD or any other thing that is new, um, that will help them have material to be able to read on,
Yeah.
so
That's really
that
good.
they can help people who have it, or people or the people that support them.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
So uh, the next question was, if you ever wished she didn't have NLD or ADHD.
So I like to think that I don't have any regrets simply because, she's the way God made her.
Mm,
And if she didn't have the disability, then, she wouldn't be who she is. So,
mhm,
she might not have the terrific vocabulary and writing skills that she has if she didn't have NLD, and she might not have all these things that interest her if she didn't have the ADHD. So, I believe that it's never something that we need to regret. It's just something that we need to find the positive aspects of,
mm,
and to make sure we stay educated on it and aware, and make other people around her or that will come in contact with her aware of it, so that she will have what I like to say, her insurance. It's like
mm,
having insurance, when you go to college, or even your job, or just whatever, that's her insurance, something that she can use to have in place for her to help her out,
mhm.
you know so I'm glad that she is, the way she is. There are times when of course I have to go and shut my door. I'm like, okay, can't take this right now. But there's always a new day.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything about that, Chloe?
No, I just thought when she goes in the room and shuts her door, usually it's like because I'm like talking about psychology or talking about something that I'm really interested in. She's like, okay, you know what? No, 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 just no, not right now.
I'll tell her to take a pause,
Yeah.
take a break, and write it
And she's
down.
like, how about you go talk to your father about
Right.
this?
He needs to be included too. Don't just share everything with me. I don't want to be greedy.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I think I tend to I I think I'm a little bit closer with my mom than with my dad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, that's probably normal with girls.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
but I would agree with you, NLD does make you who you are. And if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have the gifts that I have of memorizing all the auditory things like song lyrics or lines from
Mhm.
movies
Yeah.
Yeah.
really well, or the names or the birthdays, or being able to rattle off facts. And, like you said, there are some times where it it can be challenging. You're like, okay, it you sometimes you it makes you realize, okay, it's a little bit harder to do this specific thing like math or learn how to ride a bike or drive. But that
Mhm.
just means you need to take a step back and be like, okay, how do I tackle this thing differently? Um,
Absolutely.
and that just means you learn more about yourself and
Mhm.
be able to, you know, kind of be your coach actually,
Mhm.
and help help yourself get over that. And also let the people around you help you, because sometimes I know for me, I don't always know the answer to how to get over that challenge.
Yeah.
And it's like if we were all hitting on all cylinders at all times, we might explode. So
Mm,
it's better sometimes for one of the cylinders to be more low keyed so that the
right.
other one can be more high, going faster, so it all evens out. Like if a person is deaf, they're
Mhm.
another sense, like maybe their sight is going to kick in at a more accelerated rate. Same as if they were blind, their hearing, they're going to hear everything.
Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes it's the way we're wired. God knows why. We don't know why, but He knows. He's
Mhm.
created us perfectly, and so we're able to do some things that maybe other people, you and Chloe and others with NLD, are maybe able to do some things that other people can't do, because everyone has a disability. Everybody, some people just don't know it. We're all deficient in something. Nobody's perfect. Nobody on this earth. So
Yeah.
there's a reason, for everything.
Very true.
I like to think of it as different abilities, and I'm sure you've heard that. Instead of people having a disability, they have just their abilities are different.
Right.
That's true for everybody.
I agree with you. Where for me, I don't call it a disability. I call it a learning challenge. Uh,
Yes, I like that better.
r- yeah, I do too, because I, I don't feel disabled. I just feel different. Uh,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and
And we're all different.
Mhm.
Everybody's different from each other.
exactly. Um, and y- the next question was, if you ever feel like the NLD or the ADHD is a burden or, heavy at times.
Yeah, so sometimes it could get pretty, stressful and demanding and feel like a burden. But like I just said, I'll just allude to it again. I have to remind myself that this is who she is and how she's wired, and she's going. You have to take the whole part of a person, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And it's the same as someone who doesn't have NLD. They may have something else, that's not even there's not even a name for. It's just how people are. So anything can be a burden, basically. I think Chloe had something she wanted to add.
Oh yeah. So one of the burdens that my family finds annoying sometimes about me is that I'm always like, when we're watching something, I'm always rewinding movies and TV shows. And if I can't rewind them, I'm most likely stuck on that same part or episode for like weeks.
Mhm.
And this is because of my slow processing speed. So my brain is like a record player that keeps getting stuck while the world is still moving at this fast pace. And it takes a really long time to get the record player unstuck. So by the time that it's fixed, I've missed most of what's going on around me.
Hmm.
And so I think this is the reason why I still watch so many children's TV shows and movies, because like they're more predictable and they're easier for my brain to process. But I will say that my special interest in psychology is too strong to keep me from watching Luther. I don't know if you know what that is, but whoa, that's a show right there.
Yeah, I have to tune out some of the things in that show just because, it can be so gory. But my family, we're just so enthralled with the crime aspect and how he's able to discern right away who did what and why they
Yeah.
did it. And just like the movie Schindler's List, it's about the Oscar Schindler and the Jews. I've always been a fan of love and war,
Hmm.
whether it's a love story like Dr. Zhivago and the Russian Revolution is in the background, or if it's something like Schindler's List where the Holocaust, as horrible as it was in
Hmm.
the background, but it's the love that they had for each other, that the Jewish people had for each other. And Oscar Schindler's, he began to, I guess you could call it a love. He really wanted to help them. He never was for the horrible treatment. He was just a war profiteer. He was just trying to, fatten his pockets up, of course. But then in the middle of the movie and towards the end, he saw where he had to do something about it, how it wasn't right. And he even emptied his pockets out and sold just about everything he had in order to buy them and save them. So we share that together. We share that interest of the love side of the war, you know. But anyways, yeah, I just felt like I had to a disclaimer about Luther.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that show, but I have I do. My family and I, we do watch crime shows like
Mhm.
NCIS,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so we do know of that category.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would agree with you where it definitely can feel either burdensome or stressful with NLD, where,
Mhm.
for me, currently I'm working on three different categories of challenges: social, work, and personal. And if I'm juggling these balls all at once, and if one of them falls, it's like, okay, why did that happen?
Right.
And so, if because it can be tricky to balance all of those at once.
Sure.
But sometimes it can feel like you have a tunnel of lots of challenges to tackle. But I would say, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even though, I mean, sometimes for me it's hard to see the light, but
Oh,
not
yes.
always. Um, and you
Sometimes we
know,
just have to tell ourselves, even if we can't see it, we have to tell ourselves it's there. Even if we can't
exactly.
see it, it's there.
I would agree with you,
Mhm.
and we have to remind ourselves that it's there, because if you don't,
Yeah.
then it's just depressing.
You're right, right. I agree.
uh,
I know what you mean.
but yeah, you're right. If you're reminding yourself that it's there, because then you have something to look forward to, um, and that it can become easier. And something I realized about I was doing with a podcast, and I didn't know I was doing this until I kind of look back at the episodes, is I was going over the challenges that I've overcome.
Yeah,
And um, I think that's a good thing, because I'm probably inspiring other people to do the same, and
absolutely.
hopefully helping people to overcome specific challenges. And it kind of helped me realize, wow, I have overcome a lot. And um, just sharing that, because, like I said, if if you if there are times where it's hard to see that light, you can remind yourself, okay, I have overcome a lot already.
Right.
um
Yeah, and that's the good thing about record keeping and
yeah,
recordings and things. You can see what you've overcome that way.
exactly. um is there anything you guys do to help keep Chloe motivated um when she gets discouraged?
Yeah, I like to always remind her that, you just have to take one day at a time,
Mhm.
and if you have a bad day, one of my mom's favorite sayings is this too shall pass,
Mm.
if you will fall down several times and you just have to get back up and try again and keep going. The next day is a brand new day, and just try to stay positive. Remind yourself that your glass is half full and
Mhm.
not half empty, and keep your faith. And I pray a lot. I pray, and that always excuse me, makes me feel better, even if the situation doesn't immediately correct itself.
Mhm.
I know that one day it will be corrected, and we're still alive, we're still here. So so
Yeah.
yeah, I would just say try to stay positive and don't get down, and just take one day at a time, you know.
Yeah. I agree with you. I tend to do that too, where I yeah, I try to keep myself motivated, or if I'm not if I don't do that, my parents do it for me. Um,
Right. Yeah, it
which
takes a village.
Yeah. And just keeping a positive mind, and praying too. And I also am familiar with the saying, "This too shall pass."
Hmm.
Um, and being able to just take it one step at a time, because sometimes that's all you need to do, or all you can do.
Right, right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so is there anything you would tell people, and this is for Pam or Chloe, that they don't know that they have NLD, but they might suspect that they have it or that they have something else?
Yeah. So I would say don't give up. Always communicate with your, parent or caregiver, whoever you live with, even if it's a teacher, excuse me, I would say that sometimes kids have to self-advocate like Chloe did for a lot of her
Mhm.
things. She had to self-advocate, and I would suggest that to get tested as soon as possible. The sooner the better. It's worth any sacrifice that you might have to make. With me, I was always afraid about how much money it would cost.
Mm,
I didn't know if my insurance would cover it, and I came to find out that not only did they cover it, it was a lot less, like a fourth of what I thought my end would be.
mhm,
So as soon as you find out what you're up against, the better. I would say definitely don't, like, it's like a bad piece of mail or like a medical bill that you think your insurance company should have paid and didn't. Don't just put it at the bottom of the pile.
mm.
Call and investigate and make have questions about it and try to find out answers, because the sooner you have a diagnosis, the sooner you could begin your treatment, and treat your disability or different ability and move on with your lives. But yeah, money and things like in any other kind of barrier, I guess money's the main barrier. Unless a person is just ashamed, and they really should not be ashamed at all. But I would definitely say for the children to be a self advocate, and parents hopefully will listen to their children and go ahead and make whatever sacrifice they have to make to go ahead and get that test done, and not give up, because there's an answer, there's a reason for why people do the things they do, and they might have a disability that needs to be tended to.
I would agree with you. I definitely was an advocate for myself too, where when I was a sophomore in college, that's when I got tested. I just said to my parents, I feel like I have I said learning disability, but
Mhm.
learning challenge, and um, I wanted to get tested, and they they listened to me, and I I knew about where to get it done at Berkeley because I had a roommate who was deaf,
Mm,
and so I knew where to go because of her. And I don't think I would have known about it so much if I didn't have her as a roommate.
wow.
Um, so that was fortunate. And
Hmm.
um, I was able to get accommodations that made it easier to go through school or through college, I should say. And
Right, that's awesome.
um, I had extended time. I could record my lectures and convert the textbooks to audio. Um, and just those
Mm,
little things helped because I saw my grades that I had in the first 2 years, which were C's, go to A's and B's.
awesome.
Um, thank you. So it, I mean, obviously, I could see the evidence of those helping.
Right.
Um, and my mom helped me for the last 2 years of college with my essays
Hmm.
because I was a sociology major. Every single assignment I had was an essay.
Wow, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was psychology, so yeah, I had to write a lot too.
yeah. Um, so she just helped me with proofreading um, and writing them too.
Sure.
I would read the material, but she would help me write them, and it would have been harder for me to graduate if I didn't have all the help I did. But definitely, you know, I would say when Chloe goes to college, and you probably are already thinking about this, but if she can get accommodations for her that to make it easier, whatever they would
Oh,
be.
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've been
Yeah.
looking into that. I wanted to ask you if I
As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for this podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast. It is called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. In conclusion, I would like to hear from my audience. If you know individuals with NLD that I could interview for this podcast, please email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com. What are you interested in learning about NLD? I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having it. I would like you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. Also see if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than it originally was. Thank you for listening today, and please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye.